Hello everyone, and thank you for listening to this presentation. I am a teacher at the Faculty of Education of the University of Castilla-La Mancha in Spain, and the title of the presentation is Enhancing Learning to Learn Competences and Autonomous Learning by Using ICT in the Acquisition of the English Language. In this paper, it's explored how to improve English learning, fostering learning autonomy and learning to learn strategies with the support of new technologies. In a knowledge-based society, lifelong learning has become a necessity for personal and social fulfillment, and the acquisition of learning to learn skills and autonomy are crucial to enable lifelong learning, since learning to learn supports all learning activities, and autonomy is a precondition for effective learning. However, there is a lack of learner autonomy in the context of foreign language learning, particularly in higher education, and this can mainly be explained by several factors. First of all, the traditional instruction model, the predominance of a teacher-centered methodology, the difficulty of embedding a pedagogy for autonomy in the curriculum, and finally, creating an effective context for developing autonomous learning. It's complicated. To overcome these difficulties and to implement a pedagogy for autonomy in higher education, it is necessary to shift from a teacher-centered model to a student-centered methodology with a focus on motivation, with a pedagogical use of scaffolding, and building this promotion of autonomy into the curriculum, and fostering cognitive and metacognitive skills by improving self-awareness and self-regulation. And for doing this, new technologies are a powerful ally since they can provide catalytic conditions for development of autonomous learning. To put all these principles into practice, a teaching innovation project was designed and implemented. It was endorsed by the University of Castilla-La Mancha, Spain, and 20 university teachers participated in its design or implementation, and it was aimed at university students of English as a foreign language enrolled in separate faculties of education. The main goal of the project was to improve English learning of these future primary teachers, because in an interconnected society, mastery of foreign languages is an important competence for future teachers. And additionally, there is an increasing number of bilingual schools that require teachers to be able to convey the content of different subjects by means of English. However, it was detected that most future teachers in their first years of training at university find it difficult to communicate in English, and this was the main reason for the design and implementation of this teaching innovation project. The teaching innovation project consisted in the design of a learning itinerary based on the promotion of cognitive and metacognitive skills in two main dimensions, self-awareness and self-regulation. To foster the self-awareness dimension, the students were given a questionnaire to detect their learning strategies and additionally an English placement test. The result of these tests were then discussed with the students so that they could analyze their learning strategies, which enabled them to develop metacognition, and they also could become aware of what their starting points as English learners were. The development of a self-regulation dimension was backed up by the design of a set of instruments for fostering the strategic actions of planning, evaluating, and monitoring. First, to scaffold the strategic action of planning, two instruments were designed: an inventory of tasks for students and a wide repository of online resources. The inventory of tasks aimed at scaffolding the process of planning by offering the students a set of tasks connected to their curriculum that developed their language skills and particularly their oral and written production. And for the repository of online resources, consisted of a wide selection of materials divided into different sections: listening, reading, speaking, writing, use of English, grammar and vocabulary, and online dictionaries. Online resources were also graded according to different levels: basic, intermediate, advanced, so that the students could choose the area or skill they needed to improve and start at the level in which they felt most confident. In this way, the activities catered to the different needs the students had. This is an example of one of the links for the skill of listening of the online repository. The activities are selected and graded so students don't get lost surfing the net, and they could find listening tasks, and online feedback. And in total, only for the skill of listening, students could access to more than 600 activities, so a lot of activities to practice, because in fact, it is a very wide repository. To scaffold the strategic action of evaluating, two types of instruments were designed: online self-assessment questionnaires and evaluation rubrics. The self-assessment questionnaires were designed as checklists, so the students could bear in mind what they were mainly required to produce, and it offered students guidelines for the processes of organizing, monitoring, and revising. For example, the self-assessment questionnaire for written production was created to model the process of writing in 3 steps: pre-writing, writing, and revising, following the principles of the cognitive process theory of writing. This questionnaire tries to elicit the process of pre-writing by asking questions such as: before writing, do you write down the main ideas you want to include? Or before writing, do you organize your ideas into different paragraphs? Before writing, do you think in the vocabulary, linkers, and structures you have to use? In turn, the process of revising is fostered with questions such as: when you finish writing, do you make sure that adjectives are not in plural form? Do you make sure that adjectives are placed before nouns, and so on? The students were also provided with evaluation rubrics for oral and written productions used by their teachers in final exams, so they could become familiar with the dimensions assessed, adapt their productions to this framework, and improve their self-assessment skills. Finally, to scaffold the development of the strategic action of monitoring, students had to reflect on their learning experience in a reflection document. Students had to write a document in which they reflected on their learning process and described what they had learned, how they learned better, what their strengths and weaknesses were, and what they had to do to continue learning by designing a plan of learning to reinforce or extend their abilities. The itinerary of learning was monitored by means of a virtual campus where the students accessed online resources and uploaded their tasks, tests, presentations, videos, recordings? Do you also carry out a process of self-assessment and uploaded their documents of reflection on their learning process? Results. Lager-type questionnaire and a group interview were conducted to research the perceptions the students had on how the project had influenced their learning process. The students reported very positive views on the implementation of the pedagogical intervention. In their opinion, the areas that benefited most from the new approach were their vocabulary and their written production. The most valued documents and instruments designed for the project were the evaluation rubrics, the repository of online resources, and the inventory of tasks. The students considered the use of evaluation rubrics to be key to evaluating their progress, to understanding the knowledge and skills to be acquired, and to organizing their learning process accordingly. As for the repository of online resources, the students believed it made it easier for every student to work on their individual weak points online. The students were also appreciative of the design of the inventory of tasks as a way of planning, organizing, putting their skills into practice, and improving them. However, the students reported difficulties in identifying their strengths and weaknesses and in organizing a personalized practice plan in the reflection document, which showed that learners were not used to explicitly managing cognitive and metacognitive processes. Finally, the design and implementation of the project also benefited teacher coordination, reflection on teaching practice, and the use of new technologies, especially the virtual campus. Conclusions. Implementing student-centered teaching methodologies based on developing students' autonomy has been challenging, rewarding, and effective, since it helped students improve their abilities for lifelong learning and had a very positive impact on their language learning, and particularly in vocabulary and written production. However, it was also difficult to create a learning environment for the development of autonomy and self-regulation, and it required a lot of planning, reflection on teaching practice, and monitoring. The support of new technologies has been crucial, since these enabled individual students to be catered for by means of autonomous online learning and provided very useful tools for students to create, present, and communicate their productions, and for the teachers to monitor and provide assistance throughout the whole process. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, any queries about the project, I can be reached via this email address on the screen. Thank you.